All right, this should be good. Yoga to grow taller. Let's talk about it. Is it possible and how? And what practical steps can you do today to increase height and grow taller through yoga? I get somehow this request a lot. It seems like certain demographics and areas where people live in have this question more than others. And there's a question, yoga to increase height, yoga to grow taller, yoga to increase a few inches and centimeters in body height, and whatever the formulations are, it's coming in a lot. And there's different things you can do to actually grow taller. First off, it is a reality that most of life happening today is seated. A lot of it is happening right in front of us. There's no need to reach to the sides or to reach up. So it's pretty common to get into this rounded forward position, especially with the phones nowadays. And so opening the front, which is the area that we are closing so much through sitting, through emotional stressors, through trauma, unprocessed information that is somewhere stuck in the body. It usually comes with a shortening of the flexor muscles. And so a lot of it is rounding forward and closing the front. That's why exercises to open the front again, open and lengthen the superficial front line are a good first step to grow taller through yoga. When you're moving the body, you're always moving the entire body. There's no isolation possible unless you use a scalpel. The whole body is always moving as one unit, and there are certain exercises you can do to specifically emphasize the superficial front line. Those would be, for example, Sphinx pose, when you're on your belly, on your forearms, the elbows under the shoulders. You bring the feet wider apart, engage the glutes, and then open the entire superficial front line. Take deep breaths here while you're staying in this position, and usually 5 to 10 breaths is a really good amount to be in on a daily basis. If you want to go a little bit deeper, you can press into the palms and straighten the arms for seal pose. You could also do something in between where you have the arms half straight. You can also move between Sphinx and seal where you have the elbows on the ground, and then you straighten the arms and then you bring the elbows back down, so you're doing more repetitions. You can do about 10 repetitions instead of 10 breaths. That's also a really good way to approach it. Other great positions to open the superficial front line is upward facing dog or locust pose. There's many different variations to it that you can do, but simply laying on the belly and then pushing up as if you would do a push-up, but then you're pushing up into an upward facing dog is very good to open and lengthen the superficial front line. And then you lower back down onto the belly, and again you push up to upward facing dog. To take this up just by a little bit, you can do downward facing dog, rolling through the spine forward to upward facing dog. That way you lengthen the superficial back line in down dog, and then as you roll forward, you're really working on your awareness and segmenting the spine, ideally moving each vertebrae and segment of the spine as you roll forward. Then in your full expression of that movement, the end of that movement, you are in upward facing dog. Engage the glutes, open the front, maybe stay for a few breaths, and then you roll back through the spine to downward facing dog. This is one that I do on a daily basis, and I like to do about 10 or so repetitions very early in the morning, shortly after waking up, before I sit down for meditation. And the last exercise to open the superficial front line to grow taller is cat-cow, where you are on all fours, the shoulders over the wrists, the hips over the knees. And on your inhale, you're just moving with the breath. You arch your back, lower the belly, look forward. And then on your exhale, you start to round your back, push the ground away to lengthen the superficial back line. And then again, inhale, lower the belly for cow pose, and you open the front, and again back to cat. And this can be a very advanced movement. It looks very simple from the outside, especially if you're just moving the spine as one unit. And of course, it's always moving as one, but you want to emphasize a little bit and focus more neural drive towards the little segment of the spine. So maybe you start with, if you are in a neutral position, or in a cat pose with rounded back, you start to tilt the pelvis forward first without moving anything else. And then you move the lumbar and the thoracic area and then up into the cervical, and you really try to isolate each vertebra, which is very, very challenging for the nervous system, but amazing input and results in a very short time. Besides opening the front of the body, because we're all very closed here, opening this will already give you a nice lift and more length up the front. And then you want to bring the tissues on the back more down. They have the tendency, because we round forward, to creep up. And so you want to bring those tissues down. Of course, structural integration bodywork is a great way to do it and the most effective one that I know. But you need someone else for it, and maybe you don't have someone right now or can't go to get sessions. So there's also different exercises you can do on your own, also in addition to receiving bodywork, that will help you to strengthen and bring the tissues down at the back side of your body. We are growing in the belly of our mothers in this fetal position, fully rounded, closed in the front, and then the back is very long. All the tissues are very lengthened. Once we are born, what's bringing us more towards adulthood is this maturity of the superficial back line being stronger. It is what's pulling us into a more upright position. So this is why the first step of releasing any tension and restrictions in the front is so important, because now we can address the back side of the body, the superficial back line, and all the tissues that are part of it, to strengthen them and contract them, that they can pull us more up, more upright, and bring us more into maturity. The development of the superficial backline and strengthening it is very important for our maturity, our growth, going into adulthood, being on our own, and also our very strong stabilizing muscles for standing and our more endurance muscles. So they are more challenging to train. It might be a bit more uncomfortable than training anything here on the front, but that's just because there are different tissues that are made and meant to be used for a longer time, like standing or when you're walking. A nice first exercise to strengthen the superficial backline is in a tabletop position. You lift the right hand, extend the right arm forward and the left leg, so opposite sides. Some people call this bird dog, and then you can hold this for about 10 seconds or 3 to 5 deep breaths, and then come back down to tabletop and then do the other side. And you can do several rounds, maybe 2, 3, 4 each side. Depends what you need, depends what feels good. But this is a really nice one to also work across the body, the whole superficial backline. Really great for coordination, full body strength, but again, a little bit more emphasis on the superficial backline, which will help you be more upright and eventually be taller. Then from there, you can take it up to an awkward plank position. So in a plank position, a good solid plank, that should be the foundation. If once you feel stable there, you can come into awkward planks, which is the same thing. So you lift the right arm forward, then the left leg, hold it for a certain amount of time, and then bring it back down to a plank, and then to the other side. So left arm forward, right leg back. So always contralateral, right arm, left leg, left arm, right leg, always kind of across the body. Another really great way to strengthen the superficial backline. Then to move to a prone position on your belly, you can continue the work there by just lifting everything up, kind of like a locust or half locust. Some people call it hollow back position. So on the belly, you can keep the hands close to you, then lift the feet, the thighs, everything up that you basically can lift up. This would be the easiest entry to start with. If you want to go a little bit stronger and more challenging, you would bring and extend the arms out to the sides, thumbs up pointing down, lift the hands higher up. And if you want to go even one step further, you reach the arms forward, up and over the head, and then try to lift everything up, kind of like a Superman position. And you hold that for about 10 seconds, and you can repeat that 3 to 5 times. That's something you can do daily, integrate into your practice, into your routine, or every other day. Just make it work for you, for your schedule and your priorities. While you're in this locust position, what I personally like to do is to lift everything up and then do kind of a indoor swimming. So you have the arms forward and you swim back, maybe bend the arms, and then again reach forward and then swim the arms. So while you're staying on your belly, everything lifted up for 10 or so seconds, just do a few rounds of those swimming movements which challenge the body and the tissues a little bit more. Now, these 2 tips so far really focus mostly on the superficial tissues, superficial front line, superficial back line. Of course, the whole body is involved, but there's a bit more emphasis on those. A lot of people have the rib cage or the rib basket, as I like to call it, literally stuck down towards the pelvis. So there could be a lot more space between the rib cage and the pelvis. And that is something that will come with this practice, but especially with focusing more on the deep front line, which is your true core. Those tissues start from underneath the foot, underneath the big toe, and then travel up the inner ankle, the inner shin, the inner thighs to the pelvic floor. From there it goes to the iliopsoas complex and very useful, very important structure that stabilizes the spine from the front and then continues up like a cobra into the diaphragm, and then from there different routes up all the way eventually into the head. So this is your true core, the deep front line, and this is from the feet up the inner thighs, pelvis, through the upper body into the head. So you could say there's a connection from your big toe all the way up to your tongue. And this is the true core, our real center. And what we want to do with the intention to be taller and be more upright is to have more of a lift and evoke this core. So you have this grounding through the feet and then this lift up through the center of your body. Now that you already covered and opened the front of the body, superficial tissues, and you strengthened the back that pull you more upright into maturity, now it's time to focus on the deep front line, your core, and evoke it to get more of a lift through the whole body upwards. There are some great exercises to work on that, and I think these are very important and highly underrated. The first one is goddess pose. For that one, you come into a wide stance, rotate the feet out so they are pointing in the same direction as the thighs, and you can sit pretty low, but you already start to feel very quickly the energy coming up through the thighs, the inner thighs, through the inner feet, the toes, rising all the way up into your pelvic floor. Then you can play around with pelvic positionings, so you can tilt the pelvis forward, see how that feels, tilt it back, posterior tilt, see how that feels, and then find a position that works for you well, but that's also challenging at the same time. If in doubt, you can always lower the hips a bit more down to increase the challenge and the energy flowing upwards. This position is also called horse stance, so there's different names for it. It's essentially all the same thing, especially for the legs. What you then do with the arms is really up to you. In traditional yoga goddess pose, we have the arms in kind of like this position. You can also bring them out. In Qigong, it's more common to have them in front of you, or to even move the hands as you are holding the stable position with the legs. That's the nice thing about that. It's so stable and powerful in the lower body, but still allows movement and freedom in the upper body to any kind of movements that you prefer. Regular chair pose is a great variation to this. I would definitely try to do both in a movement practice. Goddess has a little bit more focus on the deep front line, whereas chair pose has that too. Again, everything is always moving as one unit, but in chair pose, it's a bit more accessible for most people, especially if you have any trouble with the knee or with your back. Then chair pose, holding chair pose for 5 or so breaths, 10-20 seconds, and then repeat a few times might be exactly what you need. A deep squat is a very wonderful position, one of the fundamental positions to be in as humans. We all at some point were able to squat. Maybe that's a long time ago when we were kids, but your body, for most of us, is able to do it. And then we introduce chairs and sit way too much and not move enough, not walk enough. And then we create restrictions. So we are, as adults, not able to do a deep squat anymore. But it's such a fundamental position. I highly recommend you working towards a deep squat. It's obviously a bigger topic, how to get to a deep squat. You need to address many different things, do pretty specific training, but a deep squat is something that just shows the strength and the resilience and the openness of the body, and especially the deep front line. And it will help you to feel more of a lift through the center. Another great exercise are heel lift-offs. where you are standing on the flat surface and then you lift the heels off the ground up as high as you can, and then you bring the heels back down. I recommend doing 20 to 30 repetitions. If you want to hold on to something because it's challenging for your balance, then feel free to do so. Eventually you want to be able to balance freely and not have any support holding on. But it's a journey, be patient, take your time and put in the work. To up-level this one, you can hold some weights in your hands or go on a staircase or some kind of box or yoga block so that you are on that block only with the ball of the foot and the toes, and you lower the heels lower than the toes and the ball of your foot. And then from there, from this lengthened position, you then lift up high as you can. This is a really great one to get some more length in the lower area, lower aspects of the deep front line and also the superficial back line. And then from that lengthened position, contract and use and build strength to lift up all the way. And then of course there's always those that want and need more, and for those you can do also one-legged. So one-legged just on a flat surface, maybe with weights in your hands, or one-legged on a staircase or a box where you just have one foot on that box and you lower and lift all the way up with those heel lifts, and the other foot is just bent or out to the side. If you need support there, that's great. Otherwise, just free balancing using your own balance and stability. And one last one for the deep front line that's really fun is on a trampoline. So just hopping, bouncing on a trampoline up and down. Just have fun, play around. It's a really good one. There's even some interesting studies on trampoline jumping and the effects on the body and how it relates to a certain amount of cardio and all of that. But the main intention why I do it, it's again for the deep front line, providing a really nice input through the entire meridian all the way up to the head that will help you to be taller. If you want to do specific focus for deep front line, you want to maybe not have the heels touch when you're bouncing, but you're mostly on your toes or the balls of your feet so that the heels are lifted. That really focuses and centers the energy more up the center of your body. These are all very practical tips to actually be taller, feel more confident, and open up the tissues to bring you in a more lengthened and centered position. But there's one more thing I want to throw in there, and that is a daily silent meditation practice. Because if it's a big concern for you to be taller and you are not so happy with your height, with your body image, and you wish you would be taller because then you would have all the success in the world, there's a little bit too much of an identification with your body and with your height. And doing a daily meditation practice will just teach you and allow you to practice to be with what is. You're simply sitting, you're just sitting. There's no goal to it, anything that you need to achieve, because that will spiral you again back into any kind of illusions. And so you simply sit, and over time you start to become okay with your body as it is, with your height as it is, with your size and weight and anything else that is with your body. It is just there. It just is. And it's also just you. It's your body, and you're occupying this body in this moment, in this lifetime. And so this is the body you need to work with. I hope those practical exercises help you feel more comfortable in the body so that you can create a bit more space in your tissues, in your body, for the passenger inside to live in and to live in this body comfortably. All these exercises are extremely helpful. I know there are a lot. If you start a daily yoga practice, you naturally integrate most of them into a really nice flow. Even just 20 or 30 minutes of a daily yoga practice is already plenty for most people. And then you need to sit down and do your meditation practice on your own. It's good to do guided meditations in the beginning if you're new to the practice, but eventually you want to move towards silent meditations on your own, just sitting, being there, breathing, and then like a solid rock or a solid mountain, whatever is coming at you, you are just remaining calm and peaceful, and you identify less with your physical body, and you start to explore more who this passenger and this person is inside this body, occupying and living this body and experiencing human life through this body, through the senses. And the great journey of the yoga practice is to explore what is beyond the sense perceptions, beyond what we can see, what we can hear, taste, smell, feel, all of that. What is beyond all of that? What's the constant beyond that? And that leads us to the journey to remembering who we truly are, who this passenger is inside this body. Now go ahead, try out all these things. It's absolutely useless to only watch the videos and know what you should be doing, but then not do it. Even worse if you then continue to complain about it. So you need to put in the action. You need to prioritize yourself to make time for all these things that you think are important to focus on. And if this is one of them, then you need to make time now in your schedule every day, several times a week, to go practice, to go move, and to also sit in silence and meditate. On my exclusive membership platform, I also have a full program for better posture, to improve your posture and alignment. So if you found these tips helpful, you will get a ton more on the program. Just check it out. All the information is below in the description. Take it easy. Much love and gratitude. Peace.